Good morning and welcome to the Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. When we look around us, we find a perceptible change in the behavior of the people. And if we live in metros, if we live in megapolises, we find that this behavior is nauseating, almost criminal, and absolutely unacceptable as the human values are concerned. Not a day passes when we don't hear the news of the shooting, rape, murder, arson, and so on. And all around us, we see a dangerous increase in the number of people who are afflicted with the antisocial disorders. And most of the time, our justice system is so stupid that we ignore the sociopaths, considering them to be cases of the mental disorder, which they are. But there are two types of mental disorder. One is being disturbed, the other is being criminally oriented. And these sociopaths are criminally oriented. As a society and as a community, we lack the essential awareness why there is increase in the number of sociopaths. I don't want to go to the hoary past when the people call the golden age of the human being, when people lived and the land was a land of milk and honey. No, there never was such a time. There have been bad people all the time. But I'm not talking about normal people. I'm talking about sociopaths who are inclined to take steps that are not only injurious but definitely destructive. Human beings are complicated. There are layers within layers. And you would really come across uncomplicated souls. When you come across them, value them, cherish them. You see, but dealing with sociopaths is like negotiating daily with a human landmines. You never know what might misstep you take and you set them off. I'm absolutely fine with the people who confront others with an issue, seek a clarification or a solution. I'm also fine with those people who dislike you and hate you. That's being honest. That's being authentic, as I think. The sort of the people I'm wary with, the sort of the people I want to avoid are those who pretend to be friends and are actually looking for chinks in your armor to exploit your vulnerabilities. But then there are other types of people also who worry me. Insecure people, because they lack self-confidence and are perpetually seeking to push others in the face of the danger, endangering their life and property. Is the outcome of biological and experimental circumstances, and complexities are inevitable who had difficult childhoods. But having a difficult childhood is no plea for being a sociopath. Lack of love, financial troubles, abuse, distrust, a lack of normal family environment can and they do leave lifelong scars that manifest in emotional instability. But human beings have to get over that. There's a very simple thing. There's a hump. Either you get over the hump or you strike your head against the hump, seeking to destroy that hump. As long as you destroy the hump, it's fine. But if it's the process of destroying that hump, you destroy other human beings, that is simply not acceptable. And many times we have seen that the smallest perceived slight in childhood does translate into major personality complications. And then, they are absolutely unacceptable. And as I said, our social system here in Canada perceives them sympathetically, but is failing to distinguish and discriminate between sociopaths and who are mentally disturbed. Going beyond genetics and upbringing, the larger society plays a major role, a critical role in shaping pro-social and anti-social personalities. The sociopaths are antisocial. That's a fact. And many times they hide the personalities. They are double personalities, like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. The truth is that in this world there's a disturbing increase of the people. And these people have sociopathic and psychopathic behavior. We are actually today surrounded by the people with these antisocial activities. And shockingly, some of the behavior promoted by some societies is responsible for sociopaths. You compare two societies and you would find the difference. When I say two societies, the Western society and the Eastern society. When there is extreme focus on the self, impulsivity, lack of guilt and responsibility. The most important is lack of guilt and irresponsibility. Then you are a breeding ground for sociopaths. As a matter of fact, lack of guilt and responsibility are exactly with what are the traits, the characteristics of sociopaths and psychopaths. You remember one day I talked about the fact that you can always depend on a person who is suffering from guilt complex, because that person can never betray you. Ultimately, he is so guilty. So manipulating situations and manipulating people, these sociopaths gain what they want. And yet they wave a red flag to the justice system. As a matter of fact, we are forgetting that these sociopaths are not fit to live in the human society. But you can't exterminate them. You have got to treat them as criminals, violent criminals, even if they are not violent immediately. A psychiatrist examination has to be conducted of these sociopaths and either treat them or segregate them. I'm not saying imprison them, segregate them that they cannot harm others. As a matter of fact, the societies that encourage individualism, such as USA, Western Europe, North America, they tend to have a higher incidence of recorded sociopaths than the Oriental societies. The Oriental societies, the Eastern societies, there's a stress on the oneness of all living. Whether you look at Confucius, you look at Krishna, you look at Rama, you look at Gobind Singh or Nanak, you would find that, or you look at Shintos in Japan, you would see that all Eastern societies basically lay stress on oneness of all living things. And there is an implicit sense of duty that all have to each other. And those people who are born with the inability to process interpersonal emotions in such a society have a greater chance of normal societal interface than they have in individualist states like USA and Western Europe. If you look at the whole thing, like countries like China, Japan, Korea, India, I mean, wherever the individualist culture is there, people are not as big or as large number of sociopaths as they are, say, in Chicago. And then another thing, even in the Eastern societies, look at India. This used to be a very peaceful, placid country, but have you seen one thing? A changing modes. There's an increase in sociopaths in some parts of the country. There are more sociopaths in the urban societies than in the semi-urban or rural ones, because people in the urban space are moving away from the basic culture that in him was a part of their psyche, and they are copycats of the Western individualistic system. These copycats also copycat sociopathy. So what does that one do then? It's important to stress on the connectiveness and the sense of responsibility and duty to the others. It's also important to be aware of the antisocial traits in others as well as in ourselves. So if we detect antisocial behavior, and we have an incentive to change it, our intellect and society should be ready to help it. This sort of counseling that is happening in Canada, I have seen it, is no counseling. The whole counseling is aimed at developing and nurturing individualistic attitudes, not as societal attitudes, the sense of responsibility. People in the counseling center are taught duty to themselves, not their duty to society. So, if you want to stop the rise of sociopathy, then you have got to change the whole cultural basis. We talk of the multiculturalism, but the multiculturalism does not mean refusing to say Merry Christmas and saying Diwali, Badhai, or Eid Mubarak. No, it means having those positive values and instill them in yourself. That is multiculturalism. Give and take of the good points, and not the stupid things that we do in the name of multicultural, which is basically, as I said, divisive. So, as we are always looking for a speck of dirt in the other's eye, and we ignore all the dirt in ourselves, we detect problems in others, not in ourselves. So, with introspection, let's start detecting the likelihood of sociopaths, and we'll find that when we bring up children, we tell them not to compete with others, but to compete with themselves. Competing with themselves means that they are not becoming selfish, but they are trying to improve themselves. And I'm very happy that the government of Norway has done it. They have abolished all sorts of competition. Up to the secondary level, they say no, people should not be given even marks. Let each child be concerned with himself or herself as far as improvement is concerned, and with others as far as helping others improve is concerned. So the sense of responsibility to the others becomes a basic norm of that culture. That is what the Eastern cultures are about, as I said, whether it's Hinduism or Sikhism, or Buddhism, or Jainism, or Shintoism, or Zen, or Confucianism, all are the same implicit aspect. You see, they are always signs before the blast occurs, and we ignore it. It's our social responsibility to watch out for the sociopaths who are misfits in the society. And many times I feel that psychoprofiling is a must. We are against race profiling. Why can't the police, with the help of psychologists and psychiatrists, go in for psychoprofiling so we know what sort of people there are? Many times we know in the family that the child has the criminal tendencies. Neither we take the help of the psychologist, nor of the coaches, nor of the elderly people, but we want to hide it. And when we want to hide that spark, it results in a wildfire. And that is what happened, in the Texas killer Devon Kelly's case, who was an outcast from the home. Thereby, the girl who was raped in the bus and then murdered, they were known for the delinquent behavior. So we are aware of what's happening, but we, working under a false sense of securing the goodness of the people, ignore it. So A, the change of the culture, B, the attitudes of the society as a whole, and C, desire to protect, coupled with the inane, stupid justice system, is helping increase the sociopaths. And the sooner we check this increase, the better it would be for ourselves and for the society as a whole, and even for those sociopaths. Because maybe after being segregated and treated, they can be brought back into the mainstream of life. Can there be anything better? Think about it. Are we not breeding sociopaths because of our own stupidity? Because of our values which are undergoing drastic changes? If we are, then it is our fault. It's the society's fault. And sociopaths, cunning as they are, always have an excuse ready that it's not their fault. So let's cut the chase, call a spade, and ensure that sociopaths will not be permitted to hold us in fear or in danger. Thank you.